All right, so let me tell you something. This episode was not playing with anybody. Not Tiff, not Norah, not Rosalyn. Nobody was safe, and everybody, and I mean everybody, was sitting on something they did not want coming out. You think you know who the good guys are on this show? Baby, think again. Because Season 8, Episode 6 just blew the whole board up. We talking betrayals you did not see coming. Money that's got blood all over it. A body that somebody got to figure out what to do with. And a woman who just stepped into a level of power that is scary. Like genuinely scary. Tiff ain't the same Tiff no more. She got that energy now. That Alicia energy. And if you know anything about this show, you know that energy don't come cheap. So buckle up because we breaking down every single moment, every layer, every secret that got exposed in this episode. And trust me, by the time we done, you're going to be looking at every single character differently. Let's get into it. So the episode opens and right away the vibe is different. You can feel it. There's a tension sitting over everything. Like everybody in that room knows something they ain't supposed to know, and they just waiting to see who's going to crack first. And that's exactly what this episode is built on. That slow burn feeling where you watching people hold themselves together on the outside while everything is falling apart on the inside. That's the Chai doing what the Chai does best. And episode 6 this season? It took that formula and just turned the heat all the way up. Let's start with Tiff because we cannot talk about this episode without talking about what Tiff has become. And look, this is not shade, this is facts. Tiff kind of got into her little Alicia bag this episode. You know what I'm saying? Like she tapped into something. She moved different. She talked different. She carried herself with this energy that was cold, calculated, and honestly a little bit terrifying. She might be worse than Alicia right now, and that is saying a lot because Alicia was out here running the whole thing. But Tiff is bloodthirsty right now. She ain't asking questions for the sake of asking. She asking questions because she already know the answers and she want to see if you gonna lie to her face. That's a different kind of dangerous. That's not rage, that's control. And control is always scarier than rage because rage makes mistakes. Control don't. And what really sets it off is that moment right after the engagement party where she goes outside, and this scene was everything. She goes outside just to have a moment, right? Just to breathe. And then boom. She's right there. She looks this person dead in the eye and she says it plain as day. I know you know who killed Rob, and if you don't tell me who did it, I'ma kill you and bury your body in my backyard. No yelling. No screaming. No dramatics. Just cold, flat, serious. And that's what made it hit so hard. Because when somebody threatens you, calm like that, like they already made peace with doing it, that's when you know they mean it. Tiff meant every single word. And the audience felt that. You had to feel that. Now let's talk about the engagement party itself. Because that whole scene had so many layers going on at the same time, it was almost overwhelming in the best way possible. You got Rolando up there giving this speech that was genuinely beautiful, like the man had the whole room feeling something real. He talking about having somebody who can stand with you through life's storms, about there being no greater gift than that kind of loyalty. And it's hitting everybody in their chest. People emotional. People crying. Rolando is one of those characters that just brings something authentic every single time he on screen. He don't oversell it. He just lives in it. And when he cries, you cry because it don't feel like acting. It feels like a real man pouring something out that he actually means. Shout out to Rolando because he one of the most underappreciated parts of this whole show. But here's the thing. And this is what makes this show genius. While Rolando is up there talking about trust and loyalty and standing by each other, you got a whole room full of people who are doing the exact opposite. Like, look around that engagement party. Really look. Everybody in that room is hiding something. Everybody is carrying a secret that could blow the whole thing up. And the show knows that. The show is letting you sit in the irony of this beautiful speech about loyalty happening in a room full of people who don't trust a single soul standing next to them. It's almost like a joke. A dark, uncomfortable, perfectly written joke. Because if you look at your neighbor in that room and ask, neighbor, can I trust you? The answer for everybody in there is no. Hard no. And that contrast, that gap between what Rolando is saying and what everybody in that room is actually doing, that's what makes episode 6 feel so suffocating. In the best way. And then you got the kids getting into stuff they got absolutely no business getting into, and that just adds another layer to the chaos because it's like nothing in this world is sacred. Not the party, not the celebration, not even the moment. Everything is compromised. Everything has something underneath it. And that's the whole point of this episode. Everybody got secrets. And the show is spelling it out for you scene by scene, moment by moment, without ever having to say it out loud. That's good writing. That's the chai at its best. And we haven't even gotten to Norah yet. We haven't even gotten to Rosalyn. We haven't gotten to the body. So trust. It only gets deeper from here. Now let's talk about Norah, because this is where the episode really starts to peel back and show you just how deep the betrayal goes on this show. And when I say deep, I don't mean surface-level drama. I mean the kind of betrayal that makes you sit back and go, wait, she really did that? Because Norah was not just somebody on the sidelines. Norah was somebody that people trusted. Somebody that felt like she was in your corner. And to find out what she actually did, what she was willing to do, that changes everything about how you look at her from the very beginning. So here's what went down. Norah sent a statement to the police. A statement claiming that her and Dude were not together the night of Alicia's murder. Let that sink in for a second. She looked at a man she was involved with, a man she was making love with, a man who trusted her with his presence, his time, his body. And she went to the police and told them he wasn't with her. She gave them the one thing they needed to keep him locked up. She handed them his alibi and said, nah, that didn't happen. And just like that, a man's whole life is on the line because of a lie she chose to tell. Not because she was forced. Not because she didn't have a choice. She made a decision. A cold, calculated decision. And for what? Money. That's it. Money. And the money trail leads straight back to Rosalyn Perry. Now, let's talk about Rosalyn for a second, because this woman is something else entirely. She paid Norah. She paid her to lie. She paid her to follow instructions and make sure that man stayed in that jail cell for the rest of his life. And what's wild about it is that Rosalyn is not some random villain you can easily hate from a distance. She's somebody you understand. She had a reason. A real reason. Because her brother was killed and she wanted revenge, and when you carrying that kind of grief, that kind of rage, you don't always think straight. You start making moves that you can't take back. You start paying people to do things that cross every line there is. And Rosalyn crossed them all. Every single one, but here's where it gets even more twisted. The attorney, and shout out to the writing room for this moment because it was cold in the best way, the great attorney was able to flip Norah, got her on the stand, got her talking, and Norah flipped. She gave up Rosalyn. She said the name out loud. Rosalyn Perry. Who paid you to lie? Rosalyn Perry. And just like that, the whole thing cracked open. Because now it ain't just about one lie or one statement or one decision. Now you got a whole web of people who knew things, paid for things, covered things, and thought they were going to get away with it. And the show just pulled the thread and let the whole thing unravel right in front of you. Now what makes this hit different is the emotional layer underneath all of it. Because the reaction when all of this comes out, when people start hearing what Norah actually did, is not just anger. It's that specific kind of hurt that only comes when somebody you genuinely cared about turns out to be someone completely different than you thought. And Jason Weaver talked about this in the most real way. He said when he was reading the script, he was like, "What are you doing? You love and care about this person." And that's exactly what the audience is feeling right along with him. Because you watched these two together. You saw something that felt real. And then you find out she was willing to let you rot in prison. She was going to keep you in there for the rest of your life. And she did it for money. That's not just a plot twist. That's a gut punch. That's the kind of moment that makes you question every scene you watched before it. Every smile, every touch, every quiet moment between them. Now you looking at all of it differently. Now you wondering how much of it was real and how much of it was performance. And that's what the chai does that most shows don't. It don't just shock you in the moment. It reaches back and reshapes everything you already saw. It makes you feel like you missed something, like you should have known. And that feeling, that specific feeling of being blindsided by somebody you trusted, that's what episode 6 is really about, underneath all the drama and the secrets and the bodies. 'Cause let's be clear about something. Every single person in this episode who got hurt by somebody they trusted. Not by strangers. Not by enemies they could see coming from a mile away. By people who were close to them. People who were in the room with them. People who smiled in their face. And that's the scariest thing about this episode. Not the threats, not the body, not even Rosalyn's money. It's the fact that the most dangerous person in your life might be the one sitting right next to you acting like everything is fine. And in episode 6, that's not a metaphor. That's just Tuesday. That's just life in the chai. And nobody, not one single person, is walking out of this episode with clean hands. Not Norah, not Rosalyn, not Tiff, nobody. And we still got one more section to go, so trust me when I say it gets even heavier from here. All right, so now we get to the part of this episode that had everybody's jaw on the floor. The part that made people rewind it twice just to make sure they saw what they thought they saw. Because everything we talked about so far, Tiff stepping into her power, Norah flipping, Rosalyn's money, the lies stacking up on top of each other, all of that was building to this. All of that was the setup. And Section 3 is where the show cashes every single check it wrote in this episode. Because now we talking about the body. Now we talking about what happens when an impulsive decision turns into a nightmare you cannot wake up from. And now we talking about money that was never clean to begin with, finally showing everybody exactly what it cost. So let's go back to that moment because we need to sit in it. Alicia left money. A lot of money. And on the surface that sounds like a blessing, right? Like, okay, somebody who cared about you made sure you were taken care of. That's love. That's provision. But nothing on this show is ever that simple. Nothing ever comes without strings. And this money that Alicia left, it came wrapped in guilt, wrapped in grief, wrapped in a secret that is getting heavier by the day. Because the lie just keeps adding on. Every decision made after that first impulsive moment just digs the hole deeper. And now you sitting on money that feels dirty even if it technically isn't. Because you know what happened. You were there. And no amount of money makes that go away. It just makes you more aware of what you traded for it, and that's the human part of it that the show refuses to let go of. The decision to do what was done, to handle the body the way it got handled, to take the money, to keep moving like everything is normal, that was impulsive. It was not calculated. It was not cold and strategic like Rosalyn. It was panic. It was somebody reacting in a moment without thinking 3 steps ahead. And now that person is living with it. Feeling the guilt of it every single day, trying to use that money like it can somehow balance the scale, like spending it right can cancel out what it represents. But guilt don't work like that. Guilt compounds. It sits on you and it gets heavier the longer you carry it alone. And in this episode, you can see that weight on her face. You can see it in the way she moves. She ain't free. She got the money, but she ain't free. Now let's talk about the body situation because the show made a decision here and it was bold. The decision was made to bury it. And look, from a logical standpoint, you sitting there like, why would you even go back to that house? Why would you step foot back into that situation? Why would you put yourself in that position again? And those are valid questions. Real valid questions. But here's the thing about this show. It don't always give you characters who make the smart decision. It gives you characters who make the human decision. The scared decision. The I don't know what else to do decision. And burying that body was all 3 of those things at once. It wasn't smart. It was survival mode. And survival mode don't think about consequences. Survival mode just thinks about right now. Just get through right now. And what makes that decision so loaded is that it pulls more people in. Because now it ain't just one person carrying this secret. Now you got people who know. People who were there or found out or got pulled into it one way or another. And every person who knows is another weak link. Another person who could crack under pressure. Another Norah waiting to happen. And the show knows you thinking that. The show wants you thinking that. Because it's planting that seed of paranoia in your head, the same way it's planted it in these characters. You watching and you thinking, okay, who's gonna talk first? Who's gonna be the one that folds? Because somebody always folds. That's the rule of this show. Everybody got a breaking point, and the chi will find it, and then there's Papa. Because we cannot close out this episode breakdown without talking about that moment. Did you kill her? I did what I was told. That line right there. That simple, flat, quiet little line, I did what I was told, landed like a brick. Because it tells you everything and nothing at the same time. It tells you that something happened. It tells you that Papa was involved in a way that goes deeper than you maybe realized. But it also tells you that Papa is somebody who operates in a structure. Somebody who follows orders. Somebody who has decided that loyalty to the chain above him is worth more than the weight of what he actually did. And that is a dangerous kind of person. Not because they're evil, but because they've convinced themselves they're not responsible. I did what I was told. That's not a confession. That's an excuse dressed up as honesty. And the show lets it breathe. Lets it just sit there in the air without rushing to explain it or soften it. Because it don't need to be softened. It needs to land exactly the way it landed. And that's what episode 6 of season 8 really is at its core. It's a mirror. It's the show holding up a mirror to every single character and saying, look at yourself. Look at what you did. Look at who you became trying to survive, trying to get revenge, trying to protect the people you love, trying to hold on to something that was already gone. Because every secret in this episode, every lie, every flip, every buried thing, it came from somewhere real. It came from grief or fear or love gone wrong or loyalty twisted into something unrecognizable. Nobody woke up one day and decided to be the villain. They just made one decision, and then another, until they looked up and didn't recognize themselves anymore. And that's the chai. That's always been the chai. It don't give you clean heroes and easy villains. It gives you people, complicated, broken, trying their best people who keep making it worse. And you can't look away. You never can. Because somewhere in all of it you see something real, something that feels true. And that truth, that uncomfortable, messy, nobody got clean hands truth, is exactly why this show still hits different after 8 seasons. Everybody got secrets. And episode 6 just made sure you know it. Now, before we close this whole thing out, there is one more conversation we need to have. Because everything we broke down, Tiff's cold new energy, Norah's betrayal, Rosalyn's money, the body, Papa's confession, all of it is sitting on top of something bigger. Something that this episode was quietly building toward the whole time without ever saying it out loud. And that thing is this: what happens when the truth finally thaws? What happens when all these secrets that everybody been sitting on, burying, paying to keep quiet, lying to protect, what happens when they start coming up to the surface one by one and there ain't nothing left to hold them down? Because that's where this season is headed. And episode 6 just showed you the first real cracks. Think about what we watched this episode. You had Norah, somebody who made a deliberate choice to bury the truth for money, get flipped on a witness stand and give that truth back up. Just like that. All that effort Rosalyn put in. All that money she spent. All those instructions she gave and strings she pulled. And it took one good attorney and one moment of pressure, and the whole thing came apart. That's how fragile secrets really are. They feel solid when you first make them. They feel like something you can control. Like if you just hold on tight enough and don't let anybody too close, then it stays buried. But secrets are not solid. They're ice, and ice thaws. It always thaws. You can't stop it. You can only slow it down. And Rosalyn thought she had it frozen. Thought she had Norah locked in. Thought the money was enough. It wasn't. It never is. And now look at Tiff. Because Tiff is out here making threats that she fully intends to keep. She told somebody straight to their face that she will kill them and bury their body in her backyard if they don't tell her what she needs to know. And the thing that is so important about that moment is not just the threat itself. It's what the threat represents. Tiff is done waiting. Tiff is done being the person that things happen to. She has decided that she is going to be the person that makes things happen. And that shift, that specific shift from reactive to active, is the most dangerous thing that has happened on this show this season. Because reactive people make noise. Active people make moves. And Tiff is making moves now. Quiet, deliberate, I already thought this through moves. And everybody around her should be paying attention because she ain't playing no more. But here is the question the show is really asking underneath all of that. And it's a question that don't have a clean answer. At what point does the pursuit of truth become just as dangerous as the secrets themselves? Because think about it. Rosalyn went after truth, her justice for her brother, and in doing that, she created a whole web